Good morning, it's January 1st, 2011. Happy New Year. And I was going to continue my rose pruning segment today. We got the beautiful snow-covered San Bernardino Peak behind us here. And I'm going to show you today how to prune a Floribunda rose and a hybrid tea rose. Hybrid tea being the most common rose that people grow. Single flower on a stem. This is what you normally get from the florist. So I'm going to start off by taking some still pictures because I know the last video was kind of hard to see, and you'll be able to see what we start with and then what it looks like when I'm all done. Okay, I'm standing here next to a Floribunda rose. Most of these roses are about 8 years. One of the things you should notice first off is that you don't see much of many of the canes that are dark brown. They're all light green. That means they're all new growth or fairly new growth that should produce and be vigorous flowering plants. So I wanted to show you what it looks like to start, and then I'll start pruning as I go. You'll notice also that there's a lot of leaves on the bottom of the plant that have fallen off. Whenever you finish pruning or during the pruning process, you should make sure you get all those leaves picked up, because again, powdery mildew and rust are caused by fungus, and those fungus spores will persist in that leaf litter, and when the new growth comes out in the spring, it'll provide inoculum for infestation right off the start. So make sure after you do your pruning that you clean up the base of the plants and get rid of all those old leaves. You'll probably notice here I use bark down underneath the plants, and what that does is it keeps the weeds down, and it also keeps the moisture in the heat of the summer here in Southern California. Okay, so I'm going to get started pruning this plant, and then I will again try to maintain an open shape of the plant, so allowing good air circulation, which usually will prevent disease or reduce the possibility of disease. You also notice that here I have all my roses on drip. So there's no overhead watering on the roses, and the reason you don't want to overhead water is because the leaves will then have an increased chance of getting powdery mildew on them, a fungus that commonly infests roses here. The other thing you want to know about powdery mildew is that it is more susceptible on some plants versus others. So if you find that you have a rose bush that has powdery mildew continuously and it's in full sun at least half a day, maybe look at getting a different rose that is less susceptible to powdery mildew. Okay, so you can see me here. I'm going to start pruning the roses, and first thing you want to look for again is any diseased wood or crossing canes. And you can see here is that again there's not much wood that is dark brown. I'll prune out some here so you can see one here. So again, here's a nice healthy green cane, and there's no dark wood on it. I just take this one out basically because it's in the center, and I'm trying to open up the plant again to provide good air circulation. Now down over here there's a lot of canes that are all tightly packed together, so you got to make a decision on which one you're going to leave. So I'm going to make a decision on leaving the youngest ones that are nice and thick and green. So this one's a little bit more lower in caliber, not as thick a cane, so I'm going to take that one out and remove it. If you'll notice, I'm not pruning at the top of the plant. That's a good time saver, because if you start pruning at the top, you can spend a lot of time pruning. By pruning out canes at the bottom, you can basically get rid of those canes and reduce the amount of time it takes you to prune the roses overall. So I'm going to take out this next one here, again because it's just too many all spaced together. That one's out. And I'm going to take this one out, mainly because it's growing down low, but it's also filling in the space between the plants. So I want to try and maintain good air circulation between the plants. Okay, so this is a nice thick cane here, but we've got a lot of smaller growth, so I'm going to take some of that off, pull it out. Try and leave some of the bigger stuff. Now this is a Floribunda rose, so it's not a hybrid tea, and if we're not going to prune it as heavily as I will some of the hybrid teas here in a bit. Still looking for those outside buds. So you can see I made a previous cut here. I'm going to take that off. So I'm taking it off to a new bud, an outside bud. And same thing here. I took some pictures of an undisclosed location of roses that are here in the neighborhood to show you what an improper rose pruning job looks like afterwards. I was talking to someone after my first video on the tree rose, and they said that, well, somebody told them no matter what you do to the roses, no matter how you prune them, they most likely won't kill them. And that's for the most part true. That's a good thing about roses. So no matter how you screw it up, or don't, or do it correctly, you don't have to worry about killing the plant. So don't feel like you can't touch them at all because you don't know what you're doing. So I'm taking out this one here because it's crossing over one of those other canes. Pruning to an outside bud here. Taking this down a little shorter. Taking off some older wood there. And taking that off. Here's again where the rose died back because usually I prune to an outside bud, but occasionally I make a mistake, and so it died back to the next bud. Take this one out. Take this one off. Again, about a foot tall is good. Alright, take this one out here. There. This one out here. For an outside bud here. One more there. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is you always hear you're supposed to take them off at a 45-degree angle. That's, best case scenario. But again, as long as you get to an outside bud, don't leave a lot of growth up above that bud. The plant should do fine. Okay, so down here I've got two that are crossing over, so I got to make a decision on which one to leave and which one to take out. So I'm going to leave the best looking of the canes and take out the one that's the worst. I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to take off this whole cane, and the reason again is the cane is growing too far to the outside of the plant. Try and keep it from overgrowing the grass in the sidewalk here during the growing season. I'll take this one off for the same reason. Okay, and then clean up some of this old wood, leaving the younger stuff. And again, by pruning them back, you will encourage new growth to come out in the spring. Keeps the plant vigorous. Now this one is getting kind of old. So I'm going to take this cane a little bit back, a little bit further, and hopefully that encourages some new growth at the base of the plant. So you have that constant regeneration of new canes coming out on the plant, and you don't end up with a lot of the old dry wood. So here's some that I left it trimmed out. Okay, so that's getting pretty close. Take out some of this here. Take this down a little bit further, and take out this cane because it's real small and spindly. So that's it, pretty much what I'm going to do on a Floribunda. Not going to do much more than that. And okay to leave a little bit more, 2 more canes on the plant, because they're more of a bush rose. You're not usually cutting Floribunda roses to take them in the house. So I'm going to clean up around the plant, and then I'll show you what it should look like after you're finished. Okay, so here's the finished product, all pruned out. All the buds have been pruned to an outside bud, and I've removed all the dead leaves in the center of the plant, and the pruning basically is done for the season on this plant. Now I only have 30 more to go in my own yard. Okay, we're here to start the pruning on our hybrid tea rose. I wanted to give you an idea how high these things are, because I know it may be difficult for you. So this is before pruning height, and we're close to 3 feet, okay? And that's usually what I try to maintain the roses at that height when I prune them back during the growing season. So what we're going to end up with is a rose that's pruned back to about 16 inches. Some people may take them down to 12, but I usually take my roses down to about 16 inches. Just so you get an idea what the heights should be when you're finished pruning. So again, you can start at the top and work your way down, but if I have the ability, I'll try and take out some canes at the bottom, because that reduces the amount of pruning you do overall. And again, because this is a nice thickly caned plant, I usually start with my loppers. And again, I'm looking at trying to keep the plant open, taking out the older canes. And unfortunately, on this particular rose, there weren't a lot of new canes produced this year. But again, no major wood that's old and brown. So I'm going to take out this cane over here, across here, and prune this one out. And I usually try to keep the rose tags that came with the roses on the plants. Okay, so I'm going to take out this cane in the middle because it's overlapping or crossing. Take that one out. And then from there, I'm pretty much going to just prune these back and take them down to about my foot, 16-inch height. So finding the outside bud, take that one off. There's an outside bud here. Take that one off. Take off the spindly growth. This one off here. Fortunately, there's no outside buds that are a little bit higher up. I'd probably leave that one a little bit higher, but no outside buds. Take it down to the next spot. Okay, and the center one I'm going to take out altogether. Try and open the plant up a little bit more. There. So here's a brand new cane here. I'll trim off this one. You can see it's nice and green and pretty vigorous. So those are the ones you want to leave. You know, you could leave these older ones, but you want to leave the younger ones. So to again encourage new growth, I'm going to leave the young one, but take off this old one here. And then prune this one down to an outside bud. Again, a bud is right above a leaf. And again, same thing on this one. There's an outside bud to the back. And this one has some dead wood on it. And there's another cane that comes off later. So I'm going to take off the older section. That out, and then prune it down to the proper height. Outside bud right there. Take off this. Spray. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or send me a message on Facebook. Thanks.